Hello, Podcast Nation. Welcome to the Be Great, Be Kind, Steve Kim Experience podcast, episode number 7.
Woo-hoo.
I'm so excited when I think about kind people, genuine people, amazing people. Khadijah, you're like among the top, right? It's very difficult to find people like Khadijah in this world, which is why I've been trying so hard to get you on the podcast, and you keep ignoring me, even though we're friends, which has been amazing and stuff. But I'm so excited to have you here. A little bit of a backstory is Khadijah and I used to be colleagues, teaching partners, and for some reason she was a little like weary of me. I don't know what. Yeah, I think you were kind of like, oh, that's Steve, like, you know, doing his thing and stuff. But anyways, after. I can't even remember how we started talking. It must have been food or something.
Definitely food.
Yeah,
Definitely.
The fast food club wheel, whatever it was. But I quickly realized just how amazing and phenomenal you are. And Khadijah is not just a teacher. She's a mother, a wife, a daughter. She's just a phenomenal person. And she's the recipient of the North Star Award. Not once, but twice.
Wow.
Right?
Humbling.
And the North Star Award is nominated by staff in the school that you work at. And really what it is, the premise of the North Star Award is you nominate someone who changes the climate of the school in a positive way. So you are the recipient twice of the North Star Award. So
nominated by you once.
By me, but 100%, right? 100%. And I'm so happy for you to be here just to kind of have a discussion, speak your truth and everything. So welcome.
Thank you for having me here. I think I'm so excited because I've been watching listening to these podcasts, and I love what you're doing. So the fact that you're giving me space to share my story as well is very humbling. So thank you for having me.
Thanks so much. So let's get right into it. So Khadijah, tell us a little bit about your journey, like your upbringing, your childhood. Where were you born?
Okay, so I am a second generation Tanzanian.
Nice.
My parents are from Tanzania. I was born in Tanzania, but we came here when I was 3 years old.
Okay.
I am the youngest daughter of two older siblings,
Yeah.
2 brothers. I am a mother, you shared that, and that has been the most amazing experience. I have a daughter who's 6 years old, but I say she's going on 16, and you know what that's about, right? And I'm, like you said, an educator who actually advocates for social justice, because I think that is so important and so huge in our schools right now. About my immigrant experience, my parents were wealthy people in Tanzania, and they made huge sacrifices, like many of our parents do, for a better life, a better future. So they packed up everything. They sacrificed huge business ventures that they were on, and we came to Canada in 1990.
Wow.
There was a huge struggle because my mom was on her own. My dad was going back and forth trying to maintain some sort of his business back home.
Yeah.
So my mom sort of did, probably for most of my childhood that I can remember, it on her own. And she will tell you, raising 3 kids in a country that's foreign is not easy.
Yeah.
So, you talk about being a daughter. That's something that I'm holding on to, my family values, because I can remember those sacrifices, and I can remember the struggles. So I try so hard to be the best daughter that I can be.
And you are.
Oh,
you are. And a shout out to Khadijah's mom and dad. Hi, Mom, Dad. They're amazing people. They're fantastic. I love your family. You know I do.
Thank you.
So that's quite the journey, right? That concept, or the essentially just packing everything up and moving to a country, just complete unknown. Right?
Totally. And
like,
I think,
can I ask, like, could you do that now? Like, for your own child? Like, I think about this too. Like, I have a very similar story as well. And I'm like, I don't know if I could do that.
You know what I think it is? Circumstance. You don't realize the strength that you can harvest until the situation comes.
Yeah.
So I would like to think that if that happened and I needed, I could.
Yeah.
But, thinking about my daughter, like, she'll never understand being in a situation where parents are struggling.
Mm-hmm.
She'll not understand that. So I find myself consciously making sure she understands it by telling her those stories.
How though? It's one thing, like, as a teacher, we understand this. Like, there's one thing to do, like, it's one thing to, like, say something to someone and have them hopefully understand it, but then release like an experience upon them, because the experiential learning is far greater than just me telling you something, right? Because it's funny, because my friend was like, you know what, the idea of helicopter parents is old school, where like you're always around your kid just making sure everything's okay. But he told me this, he's like, the concept now is lawnmower parents, in that we actually pave the path for our children so that they have no obstacles or struggles.
Right.
And I was like, oh man, that's crazy. Like, it's so, yeah, I think that's our generation. That's what we do. We're trying to pave the path.
I'm trying to be weary that I don't want her to have like a very, for lack of better words, a cushy life. Like, I do want her to understand that her experiences are going to be very different to what my experiences were, but that there's still people in the world she will come across who've had experiences that are totally different from hers, and how can she sort of show some empathy. So when you're talking about how do you really teach Zoya, like, so how do you teach Zoya? It's just through modeling it for her, because I think empathy, kindness, these are all great things. We talk about them. We know their importance. But like you said, it's not enough just to talk to them about it. It's really giving them situations where they can use it, where they can actually feel it.
Yeah. And that's, I think, the biggest thing that attracted me to you when we met for the first time at school. It's just, you were such a huge proponent of doing right and social justice. The whole empathy piece is tremendous, and it's so important. But I struggle like allowing sometimes my kids to fail, right? We don't want that, but it's the best learning opportunity, right?
100%.
And I think it's super important that we, like you talked about, set things up so that, you know what, they fall on their face sometimes. And the greatest learning is how they pick themselves back up 100%. By having them see us do that, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's really, really important.
So I'm like remembering, probably two summers ago, maybe 3 now, we went to Tanzania, and it was my first time going back with Zoya.
Yeah.
And she was so in awe because of what life looked like, and she had no concept of just different lifestyle, different culture. So, trying to instill in her that, you are Canadian first and foremost, but you have some Tenzing values that you need to adhere to too.
Okay.
And, when she started seeing the kids playing with toys that were different than what she had ever seen, because their toys really are sticks and rocks.
Yeah.
She wanted to do things, right? She wanted to purchase things and give to them. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Like, that kids young as 4 innately know to do good.
Yeah.
But somewhere along the line, they may sometimes forget it. But we as the adults need to keep bringing them back to that.
And it's so true. Like, we have the greatest impact on our own children through what we do. Not necessarily about what we say, but what we do, because they watch everything that we do. So I want to share just one thing, because Jordan's been on this kick about lemonade stand. Like, just thinking about this, right? And I'm like, let's do it in the summer. Let's go. We'll set up camp at a park and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, what are we going to charge? Like, we talked about materials and kind of the business analysis, right? And she's like, we'll do whatever, 50 cents or $1 a cup. And she's like, we can add some fresh fruit because it's healthy. And I'm like, what are we going to do with all the money that we make? She's like without skipping a beat, she's like, Daddy, I'm going to donate it all to sick kids.
How amazing.
I was like, oh my gosh, I get chills thinking about it now. And I'm like, okay, fine. Like, we're going to push hard on this, because now she sees that, right? She grew up knowing that that's what we do. We help other people. And as a parent, I love it. It's like, that's my legacy, right?
Totally.
And so it's tremendous. So what you're doing is fantastic.
Thank you.
Ultimately. So let me ask you, I think I know the answer to this, but what's your greatest accomplishment in your life? It's a big question. Big question.
It is, but I gotta say, without hesitation, it's becoming a mother.
Yeah.
Biggest accomplishment ever. To think that you have the opportunity and the blessing, really, to steer someone.
Yeah.
And to just take them through life and be there for their highs and lows and the not so great moments. But at the end of the day, there's this person who loves you unconditionally.
Yeah.
Like, Yes, I'm married to my husband who is the love of my life. But if you want to talk about unconditional love, doesn't that come through a child?
Yes.
It's amazing.
You know what? I talk to a lot of other parents, but it's a different kind of love, I think, right? Like you're married to your spouse and absolutely like true love. We love them. But when you create a human being, it's just on a different level.
Totally.
Right? And so, yeah, it's pretty crazy. So let me ask you, what's your biggest struggle that you've ever had in your life?
So as I
Times being a mother, right?
Right, I was going to say, couldn't that be both?
yeah, right?
Right?
Yeah.
I one of my friends just had a baby probably 2 weeks ago, and I remember writing in her card saying, welcome to the most joyful, but also the most painful part of your life.
Yeah.
Because it's a struggle. There's things that you want to provide, and sometimes you can't, and there's things that you want to do, and sometimes you can't, and it's a challenge as well.
Yeah. So apart from being a mom, what's like a struggle that you remember growing up, maybe something maybe in your professional career, in school, middle school, whatever, but something that was like, it was tough. It was tough. And I don't mean to put you on the spot, but these experiences shape who we are today.
Totally.
And you're just a phenomenal person.
So when I think about struggle, there's so many of them. How do we pinpoint that one struggle that defines us?
Yeah.
For me, I believe all my struggles have led me to where I am now. And when I look back and reflect on those moments, I'm like, I can't believe that was a struggle then.
Yeah.
Right? Because at the end of that struggle,
yeah.
you feel so much stronger.
Yeah.
You feel so much more able to take on the next thing that's going to come your way.
Yeah.
But truthfully, if I'm going to be truthful, before I had Zoya, I did suffer a loss, and I was pregnant and I gave birth to a stillborn. Huge struggle for me, huge loss, something that I think I'm still grieving to this day, right? And I get a little bit emotional when I talk about that because in the moment you think this is going to shatter me. I am not going to get past this.
Yeah.
But I've come to a point now where Zoya talks to me about her sister.
Yeah.
And, what was my sister like? And there's questions that are asked from that. So I've grown from it, definitely.
Yeah.
But huge struggle there.
Wow. I didn't know, but I can't even fathom that. I can't even process that. But you took that, you became stronger, and you are able to talk about it. I don't think I would be strong enough to talk about that at all. So thank you.
And that's so huge, right? The fact that we all share a story, and we all have experiences. We all experience happiness and grief and loss. But a lot of times we hold on to that and we don't find, like I said earlier, space to share those stories. Our experiences may be the same, but our stories are unique, if that makes sense.
I like that.
Our experiences are the same, but our stories are unique.
Yeah.
But if we find time to connect, how amazing is that?
How did you pick yourself up from that? Like, I'll be brutally honest, that would destroy me. That would destroy me.
I think it's faith, right? So I think it's faith in that everything happens for a reason, and understanding that there's a bigger plan, that as much as we think life is linear and that things are not going to happen to us, or that we're invincible, or that, we can just coast.
Yeah.
You learn at some point that that's not true.
Yeah.
Right? That there are bumps, and some bumps are mountains and they're huge, and at the moment you don't, like you said, you don't think that you're going to get past it.
Yeah.
But with time, with great support systems, with people listening and sharing their stories, understanding that you're not alone, you get picked up from that.
And that's huge, right? Like as educators, former educator, current educator, we talk about mental health and everything, and just being able to talk about it, right? This whole stigma of like, oh, maybe you're suffering from this or that, but then people, they become ashamed of it. But talking to people, building a community around that is very, very important, right? Oh, that's crazy. That's crazy. Hold on, if you don't know, Khadijah, we refer to each other as brother and sis. We do, because we're like family.
My Korean brother.
I love you so much. Okay, cool. So let's get right back into it. No, that's amazing. Honestly, thanks so much for sharing that. It's pretty crazy. So let me ask you. Let's talk about education, and nothing like like provocative or anything like that. But if you could give one piece of advice to your current students that you hope they would remember in 20 years' time, what would it be? It's a tough question as an educator, right?
It is, because you want to tell them everything. So you're asking to narrow down to one. And I think if there's one thing that I do tell my kids currently, is that kindness changes everything, right? Kindness changes everything. And it's a simplistic statement, but its impact is huge.
Mm-hmm.
And I give them an example where I say to them, like, when you go to No Frills and you are at the cashier, that cashier does not need to be your friend. You don't need to be best friends with them, but you need to show kindness to them. You need to say hello, how are you?
Yeah.
There's small things that you can do that truly can change someone else's day.
Yeah.
The fact that you smile at someone is this act of kindness, and that person, for whatever path they're on, may have needed that in that moment.
Yeah.
Right? And like you said, being an educator, we know that kids can be kind, but somewhere along the line, they learn how to be cruel.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
They learn it. I don't think it's something that comes to them naturally. They learn it, but then they can also unlearn that and relearn kindness.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a really nice poster in my classroom that says, "Throw kindness like confetti." There's so much of it.
Yeah.
It's not something that you need to give a little bit, or give just to the people that you know, or just to the people that are your favorites.
Yeah.
Right? Throw it like confetti. Let's just rip it all apart.
What do you think prevents people from doing that, though? Like, you're right. Like, there is so much kindness in people, but yet something stops us from actually like executing on that. But why? Is it because there's this concept of some people think is, hey, you're a kind person? That's a weakness. I hear that all the time. Like kindness is not a weakness. Kindness is a tremendous strength.
I think it's twofold. I think that's true, that people think it's a weakness of personality that needs to be changed. We need to share more stories of people who are kind and role models who are kind.
Which is why Khadijah is here.
Because that's one thing. But I also think another is people think they don't have time to be kind, right? I don't have time to hold the door when I'm at the mall because I gotta rush and do this.
Yeah.
What I always tell Zoya, you're not gonna lose time. You want to buy people gifts, you want to make people cards. Those are all great things, but your time is the greatest thing you can offer people.
My father told me this the moment Jordan was born. He said, time is the currency of love. Time, just like he said, we could buy our kids whatever we want to buy them. They don't understand the struggle, right? Even of our parents and stuff. They'll just never understand that. But it's the time. And that's the biggest regret I hear from a lot of people, is the time. You cannot get that time back. People are like, they're like, you're crazy. You left teaching, pension, everything at 40? Like, you crazy? And I'm like, maybe. Yeah, you're one. You're like, what? That's insane. Like, you were like, are you serious? You did that? I'm like, but you know me.
Right.
Like, the moment I told you why, so I have more time and flexibility with my kids.
Makes complete sense.
Everyone's like, we know Steve. Okay, well, yeah, that's him. That's him. That's the push for me. That's the motivator for me. I want that time. And then, yesterday I was on a field trip with her grade 1.
How was that?
Like, I was over the moon giddy. It was, I don't think I've been ever so excited in my life.
Was Jordan like, Daddy, can you?
The look on her, but you know what? The look on her face when she saw me, and it was 2 other parents, she was proud. She looked at me and was like, that's my dad. And my dad is on the field trip with me. We sat on the bus together. And speaking of kindness, at the very end, I didn't say anything to her. She went to the zoo leader who was kind of showing us around, and she went up to her and she's like, Fern, thank you so much. I had a great day today. Oh. The only kid to do that. And I celebrated the crap out of that. I'm like, we're going for ice cream. That was amazing, because that's it. Those things, right? We have to heavily reward people for just doing that. Like, it's not an afterthought. It's a very conscious decision to be like, you know what? I'm going to do this. It feels right. And we need to celebrate that. And I think that's part of it. Maybe we just don't celebrate kindness.
Right.
And like when I was thinking about this podcast, I'm like, what could it be? Real estate? I don't know. Being great, being kind, celebrating people who have struggled, who have like risen from that, and they're just genuinely kind, amazing people, right? Which is you.
Thank you.
And I love it. And I love you, sis.
I love you too.
Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Please stay tuned for part 2 next week. As always, be great, be kind, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.